Hi friends! I'm going to just make sure I am findable here on YouTube. But YouTube's a little easier to work with, so usually I can almost guarantee it's live. There we go. Okie dokie. I love this. It's so silly. All right. Hi, is it Sindel? Thanks for joining from Texas. Hope you're well. There's me. Hi, Donna. Good afternoon. Or as Mr. Fredrickson says, afternoon. Hi, Jean. Nice to see you. We're going to be making some fun fold cards today. We actually made these quite some time ago with the Tropical Oasis stamp set, I believe. But I thought it'd be really fun to make it with the autumn cards. Hi, Brenda from Saskatchewan. Thank you for joining. Thank you guys for joining today. So we're going to be making some fun cards. I am doing great, Cindy. Thank you for asking. We're going to make some fall cards today. So if you're new to my channel, thank you for joining me. You can always hit the subscribe button if you like what you see and follow along for some more fun tips. And if you turn on the notifications every time I go live, it will send you a notification, which is the really cool part about YouTube because it does actually work. Hi, Barbara. Thanks for joining from Louisiana. So I don't have too much in the way of news to share with you today because not too much exciting stuff is going on currently. We have our October special. There are lots of DSPs, which if you're not familiar, are designer series paper, and they are 15% off. So if you go to my online store, rachthestamper.stampinup.net, you can find all the sale items there. I'm also still signing people up for the, I believe it's 12 days of Christmas. We're going to have 12 days of Christmas ideas. So that comes via my newsletter. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to that. You can join my newsletter via my blog, which is rachthestamper.com. There's a little thing there. You click it and you just fill in your email address. I promise I will never sell your email. I won't send you spam. I only send you specials about Stampin' Up! And my online store shopping specials. So without too much delay, I'm going to go ahead and flip the camera down. One thing I am going to show you is we're going to be using the really pretty Gilded Autumn designer series paper, which is really, really pretty. There's lots of great, it's got a lot of foil accents. It's got a lot of really, really pretty patterns. And I thought what we could do is we're going to make two cards today. We'll make one a wide card, and then we'll make one a tall, thin card. Not a slim card, just a tall, thin card. So we'll be making both of those today. I'm watching something fly out my window. I thought it was a bird, but leaves are already falling here. So I'm going to flip you guys around and put you down to the stamp desk, and we'll get started. If you do get a little motion sick, just give yourself a minute. Just look away. I'll tell you when we're all locked in. Alrighty. Okay, let me just put this away, and then I will hook my microphone up just in case I get down and decide to start coloring. So give me one more sec. You're going to see a little. Okay, so I have everything up here so I can see. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. So I thought we could use this paper because it does make really, really beautiful cards. This does have a coordinating stamp set, and it also actually has, whoopsie, I can probably use some of those. It has 3 coordinating punches. So this paper, a lot of it is very reminiscent of a paper we used to have, many, many, many years ago. I know I'm going to date myself with this. It was called Houndstooth. And Houndstooth? I believe that what it was called. It was a Halloween paper. It was really pretty, but it did have a houndstooth in it. It was called Sweater Weather, as a matter of fact. So this has some great paper. This kind of looks like a speckled eggshell. And the other side has these really nice foiled pumpkins. We have leaves and acorns. Now, as I said, this does have 3 coordinating punches, and the punches are an acorn, a maple leaf, and an oak leaf. So you could buy the punches end. I'll show you. It does go with this stamp set, so you can also stamp out these images here. This is a great stamp set alone. I did not buy the punches because a lot of times I find that I want to be able to show you that you don't necessarily have to have everything. So I just bought the stamp set. We have another really nice herringbone pattern, which will make a beautiful fall card and has some nice fall accents as well. So I'm going to grab a few of these pieces of paper. I think I'm going to go with these as well. And this is actually my third pack of paper. I like this paper so much. This one is really beautiful also with the foiling. But then even the other side with no foil. I think this is one of my favorite pieces of paper. I love this one. And I also love the one with the wheat. It's really, really pretty. And then the other side of that is a really nice stripe. So has lots of possibilities for this paper. It is very, very easy to use. It's easy to use lots of it. Ask me how I know. So what we're going to do is we're going to make 2 cards, and I think I'm going to do one with, and I was really toying with possibly doing, because this coordinates oddly enough with mint, which I know is not necessarily everyone's favorite. I think you could also use jade with it as well. Now I know jade isn't necessarily as much of a fall color, but I think it's a really pretty coordinating color. But I think I'm going to do a terracotta. And then I think I'm going to do a Cajun, because even though they're a little bit dark, I think I'm going to do one of each of these for the bases. So these will be kind of my base colors, and then we'll add in some other stuff as well. So I did make this card once before. Actually, both of these cards, they are very, very simple. But I'm going to show you again as if this is the first time, just because sometimes it's nice to be able to go over things for the first time, just in case you missed it. So we're going to do one with Cajun. I'm just going to grab some paper, and oh my goodness, I have a lot of paper here that is, I thought was really ready cut, but look, I'm going to show you why it's not. So this one's not so bad, right? But then, wow, I don't know what happened to that. That I could always cover up with some DSP. So quite honestly, I probably will use that for something because, you know, I like to live on the edge. And then for the other one, I'm going to pull out a piece of terracotta tile. So this one already has one cut. So I think we'll do this one as our wide card, and then the other card we will do as our slim card. So since this one is already cut, this is going to be 5.5 by 8.5, and it's already scored in half at 4 1/4. So let me just pop this one here so I can say 5.5, 4 1/4. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim 1 1/4 on each side. So 1 1/4, 1 1/4, but we're only going to go to the score line. Okay, so I'm going to show you what you're going to do. So just pick one side, it doesn't really matter which, and we're going to line this up, just in case you haven't seen this. This is the 1 inch. Here we have 1 1/4, so I'm going to line this up. And what I'm going to do to make this easier for myself is the score line is down here at the 4 1/4, so I'm actually going to move my cutting blade down here. And that should line up right there. And I have my paper lined up here, so I'm going to slide that. So that's 1 1/4. So you can see it's to the score line. Okay, there's one. And then we're going to do the same thing, but on this side I'm actually going to measure over here, which is nice that we have those measurements on both sides. So I'm moving my paper over here to 1 1/4. And I'm bringing this down to 4 1/4. And we're going to go just like that. So easy peasy, both of those are scored. Now the only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move my cutting blade out of the way, and I'm going to just flap these two back just for a moment. So as you can see, this here is going to measure our 4 1/4. So what we want to do is kind of score this in half. So we're going to do 2 1/8. So I'm just gently lining this up, 2 1/8. And I just want to score that middle part. And the reason being is because these are going to be sealed down, and then this is going to be a stand-up flap card like that. So this is going to stand up just like this. So it looks complicated, but it's really not complicated whatsoever. So the only thing we have to do for this is we're going to need to cut our paper to go on top of it. For now, I'm just going to set this on the side, and we're going to do the same thing with this one. So I'm going to go ahead and just score this in half at 5 1/2. So we're going to make 2 cards total. but this one's going to be in a different direction. So same thing, I'm going to just take this and cut it at 4 1/4. Okay, I'm going to put this other piece on the side. We'll save that for another card. So now we're going to just do the same thing again. So just so you know, this is our halfway mark. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut 1 inch on each side, and then we're going to do the same thing with the scoring in the center. So pretty simple. So once again, I'm going to move my cardstock over here to the 1 inch mark, and I'm going to be scoring from the 5 1/2 inch point. So let me bring this down here. And I did add this. Now, granted, I want to show you. Let me back out for 1 second. Because sometimes it's kind of hard to see the marking. So I actually added a piece of printer paper. I just taped it underneath so I could see the markings. That way when it's underneath, and I'll show you what I mean. You can see the lines because sometimes they get lost if you're using dark paper. So I just took a piece of just printer paper and I taped it underneath. Actually, this isn't. This is a scrap of trimmed paper. So that's what I did. It makes it very simple. So once again, I'm going to move this to the 1 inch mark over here. So I have this lined up at 1 inch. And I'm going to move my cutting blade down to 5 1/2. So this is at 5 1/2, and all I'm going to do is just cut up. So you can see here, I went just a teeny bit too far. I created one flap here, and I'm going to repeat it on the other side. So I'm now lining up the other side at 1 inch. And I'm going to move this to 5 1/2. And same thing, just cutting up. Okay, so then I'll have my 2 flaps, just like that. Okay, now this one is going to measure 5 1/2. So when we do our scoring, it's going to be a little bit different. So we're going to do this at 2 3/4. I'm kind of just lining up. Since I folded those in, I had this flap out of the way. So I'm just lining this up at 2 3/4. And I'm going to just score this. And so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to tape these down. And then this is going to be our fun fold. And it can stand up just like that. Now all we have to do is just cut up the pieces to decorate it. So pretty simple. So this is our darker card. So this is going to be a tall card. And then this one is the terracotta tile. This is going to be a wide card. So pretty much that's it. That's about the most complicated. The only thing we have to do now is just cut our DSP. So I think I'm going to use the darker. I'm going to use this one. This will be really pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and start out by cutting. So that's 1 inch. And I don't want too tight of a border. So I'm going to cut at, I'm going to trim it down this way first. So if it normally would be 5 1/2, we're just going to take 1/8 off. So I'm going to take this at 5 3/8. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this at 7/8 inches. And I'm going to do 2 pieces. So 1 and 2. Okay, so you'll see for those. Now you can make this different, so we can use different pieces of paper. So for these, they're going to just layer right on top of this, just perfectly. And it really picks up the copper and that Cajun craze really go well together. So we're going to have 2 pieces here. I already went ahead and trimmed up a piece that's going to go on the inside. And I'm wondering, I feel like, now that I think about it, I think I cut this too short. I did. This one, you could put a little piece. You could make this longer. I should have cut this one longer. That was me being silly. Hold on 1 sec. Because I want to grab this now. That way I have it. So this is actually going to measure 2 1/8 by, I think I cut that a little bit too short. So it's going to be 2 1/8 by 5 3/8. Yeah. So 2 1/8. So 5 3/8. So that's going to fit. And I will put all the measurements on my blog, so don't feel like you have to write all this stuff down. This is going to fit right inside here like that. So I have these 2 pieces, and these are all going to be adhered down. So again, no need to frazzle yourself. And then we're going to cut 2 more pieces to decorate this. But I feel like we could use the same. So we could use this. That way we kept it all cohesive. However, sometimes I like to kind of mix it up and make it look a little bit more exciting. So what we could do is we could do these. These would fit nicely on here. We also have, if you wanted to add a little bit more bling, you could certainly add the pumpkins. That would look really pretty as well. But I kind of almost like these. acorns. So we'll do these. So I'm going to trim this down. So again, these are going to measure. So we're going to need 2 pieces here, one here and one here. They could be different. They could be the same. Really just makes, matters on what it is that you want to do. So these are going to measure 2 1/8 by 2 5/8. So the 2 1/8 is going to be the width. So I'm going to do 2 5/8. So that's 1 mark past our 1/2 inch. And then the other side is 2 1/8, which is pretty much just like that piece that we just laid down for the white. This is a pretty nice way also too to show off some of your designer series paper. Maybe you have a lot of it, so we'll fit one here and one here. So that's going to look really, really nice. Again, you could flip it over if you wanted something different for those two. I think I'm going to do one of each now that I look at it. So we're going to go ahead and put this card together first. That way you can kind of get an idea of what we're doing, and then we'll move on to the rest of the other cards. Let me just slide this over. Okay, so the one thing that's pretty important with this is that you want to make sure that you score or reinforce your scoring with your bone folder so you get a really nice crisp edge, specifically for these pieces that are going to be glued down. So what we're going to do first is we're going to put these down. So I'm going to just lift these flaps. You don't want to over glue them because you don't want it kind of gooping out all over the place. So we're going to just put a little bit. You know what? I didn't put this back in my tipsy holder. That's probably why it's being a little silly. It was laying on its side instead of up and down. So a little bit of glue. I am going to make sure that I get down here at the bottom and just a little line right here next to the edge. So now I'm going to just fold this over, and I'm just making sure, my one thing I'm making sure is that it lines up here. So I don't want it over or under. So I'm just pushing it down, lining it up. The nice part about liquid glue is it does give you a minute to readjust if you need to. So I'm just making sure those line up. And then we're going to add our glue once again, and we'll put our paper down. So we're going to have one here. Gives a nice border. And one here. And the other thing about this card that's really nice is it looks like it has a lot of detail and work, but it's really quite simple. It's not a difficult card to make at all. So the one other thing is we're going to put these 2 panels down. So we'll put one here. I kind of like this different pattern. So 1 and 1. So I'm just going to put some liquid glue here. Okay. I'm going to put this one. So it really is a nice way to show off your paper, especially different sides of your paper. This is a great card too if you have a card class and maybe you're trying to showcase the paper that you might have and you don't really know which side it is that you want to use. So that's a nice thing to do as well. So then our piece is going to fit right here in the center, but I don't want to adhere it yet because what I want to do is I want to decide if I'm going to stamp something. I want to do it now. That way if I mess up, I can flip it over. So I'm going to pull this piece out. Like so. So I'm going to tell you a couple things, and this would be a great place to tell you that if you wanted to buy the punches as well, it would make a great stopper. And the reason I say a stopper is because when you have a card like this, you will need something to kind of hold it up if you want it to show like it looks like an easel card. So you could have one of your punches and you could punch out like 2 of these acorns, or you could punch 1 acorn and just put 2 that were blank because it wouldn't matter, they're behind. And you're building them up to create a stopper for this to sit. So that would be a super idea to do with that. Now you could do any other, like a slim shaped punch if you have one. You could do the classic label punch. We have word window punch. That's one that's retired, but that was a really nice one as well. So it just kind of depends on what you want to do. But if that is something you want to do, you're going to just place your stopper here. And it's going to basically hold your card in place, and then you would lift it up to close it, okay? But we're going to just decorate this. So we're going to stick with some of the same stuff today. So I really like this wheat is a really good one. right, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it in soft suede. And I just want to grab a piece of scrap like that. And I'm going to stamp just a couple. So there are those, and then I'm going to grab the little fill-in pattern. That's a little too small. And I'm actually going to do the fill-in pattern with the mint because it really looks nice against the suede or espresso. Either one would look really pretty. So since you can see through these, all you have to do is just kind of line them up. And if you wanted to have one that was darker and one that was lighter, I'm going to stamp that off first. So this one is full strength. That one is stamped off once. And we'll just do the same up here. So there are 3 leaves. Now we did this one on the base of Cajun, so we might as well add in a Cajun leaf or 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the maple leaf. I'll just put 1, 2. I'm going to kind of stick with the 3. So you'll see the patterns of the 3s there, okay? So let me just wipe this off. And then I'm going to grab, now this one you could do a different way. So it just kind of depends. You could do 1 or 2 things. So you could do the terracotta because that's going to be lighter. The other thing you could do is you could ink up your stamp, stamp it off once, twice, 3 times, and you can see how you like your inking. So I'm going to try it stamped off once. So I stamped it off once, and then I'm going to fill in my maple leaf. That looks pretty good. Twice, and then I'm going to do the 3rd one down here, lightest. So you can get different generations of ink. It looks like you have different colors, but it's really just stamped off more than once. So pretty simple. And then how about if we'll just bring our soft suede back once more, and we will do, I want to do something that's going to fit, so I don't want it to kind of hang over, and this one's just a teeny bit big. So let's just do for this one something really simple. We'll just do, hey there. So I'm going to grab a block. I have my sentiment, and I'm going to go back to the soft suede, and we'll just do hey there. And again, you don't have to add all of this stuff to it. If you want it to be something where you have a little bit more room to write, you definitely can omit some of this. So we're going to just move this out of the way. Then we're going to bring our liquid glue back. Put a little bit of liquid glue in there. And we're just going to fit this in. It's going to fit in absolutely perfectly. Just like so. Okay. So right here, and I'm going to show you because I don't have one handy because again, I did not buy the punch. But what you could do is you could stamp this once with the ink. You could stamp it, punch out 3 or 4 of them in a row, glue them together, and then you could layer them right here. And this could be the perfect stopper for your card. You could even punch out an acorn and have it so it was popped up there as well. So very, very simple way to kind of hold your stamp or your stamped layer up just like so. And then this will fold flat. It does fit in a regular card envelope. And you can decorate the front of this if you wanted to. You could add ribbon to it. You could punch out some acorns, but it's a really nice card. And the cool part is it will, as long as you keep it, it will stand up just like so. Just perfect like that. So really easy. So that's one. So let's put together the other one. Oops, I just lost a couple cards in the process. So this is our wide version. So I'm just going to reinforce my score lines here. All right, so these two again, these are going to get glued down. So for this one, let's do something a little different. We'll do the pumpkins. That way it'll kind of reflect the color. So we're going to do the pumpkins for these 2 layers. And this is actually pretty neutral. How about if we use the back? So for this, we're going to use 1 piece of paper. We'll use 2 for the strips here, and then we're just going to use the other side for both of that there. Okay, so it'll be really, really easy. So let me just move this over, and I just have to grab my measurements because I have everything written. Once again, I will post all of this so you don't have to worry about writing any of it down. I promise I will post it as soon as the video is over. I usually go downstairs and get everything all wrapped up, and then we'll post it there. So for this one, this is the wide version. So for our DSP for this, we're going to need 4 1/8. Is that right? I just make sure I'm correct. 4 1/8. And this is the one that measured 1 1/4 inches. So I'm going to do, so if 1 1/4 inches, we're going to do 1 1/8 inches. So 1 1/8, 2 times. So we're going to need 2 pieces. So 1 1/8. And I do try to kind of keep them so they're cohesive so that the papers will line up. And I know that sounds a little bit silly, but if you're lining up the 2 pieces, so you have one on this side and one on the other, if you were to put them together, you can see they're one. So I like to kind of put them back like that. Then we just need our 2 pieces for the in-between. So for that, it's going to measure, and let me just make sure, I want to make sure that I wrote this down correctly. This is, yeah, I thought that was wrong. That didn't seem right. So this is 3 inches. So this will be 2 7/8 by 2. So 2 by 2 7/8. So I'm going to cut, whoops, 2 7/8. Let's see if I can get 2. Nope. Cut this one just a little bit, which is no big deal. So that will be 1 for here, and I just need another piece for the other side. I'm just going to grab I think I have another piece of this one. So I'm going to just trim this to 2 by 2 7/8. And I want to show you one more thing. So for some reason, right, you don't have the punches, and you're not going to be able to get the punches, and you kind of want something else to add to your card. Well, the other thing you can always do is you'll have these little extra pieces, so you could just fussy cut. Now, this is not a lot of people's thing. Some people don't like this, but you could add just a little bit of something to this just by fussy cutting this little pumpkin, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean in a minute. I don't know if you guys can hear that big engine or not, but my neighbors, very fortunate, they're getting a patio put in, so they're doing some construction around here. So I'm going to trim this up just a smidge. So then you have a little pumpkin that you could decorate with. You could also even make this into your stopper if you built enough of them up, or just this on dimensional. So I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to save that one, and I'm going to do just one more. Let's see, we'll do this one. We'll add this to the other part. So the nice part about this paper is it's really, really thin. So it's super duper easy to just cut and trim to the edge really, really closely. Because pretty much all you have to do really is just move your scissors around. If your scissors are sharp, it'll work really, really easily. Okay, so let's bring our pieces back in. Let me make sure I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Okay, so same thing. We're going to start the same pattern over. It's not going to be anything complicated. That way you can see just how simple this is to put together. So same thing again. Liquid glue. I always like to use the liquid glue just because in case you goof it up, you still have a little bit of wiggle room. So we're going to just put this one down. We're just making sure it meets to the corner. Same here. Just making sure it meets to the corner. You can see those are really nice and flush. And then we're going to put a little bit of glue for our DSP layers. Put one here. And one here. Okay, so there are those two. Then these 2 pieces are going to go right on here. So again, these were 2 7/8 by 2. So we're just going to put these down. If you do have foil on your side, just make sure you add a good amount of glue so it gets in there, because sometimes the foil can not stick quite as well. So I'm just going to flip this, put this up here. Same for this one. It's a little crooked. There we go. So I'm going to reinforce my folds again. Okay, and there's that. It's going to sit just like that. Now, I did cut this other one. Let's see if I actually measured correctly or not. No, it doesn't look like I did. So I think, oh, maybe I did do this one correctly. Hallelujah. How you like that one? That one did actually measure correctly. So this one was 2 3/4 by 4 1/8. So this is going to be our layer piece. So what you can do, if you want a little something on the front, we could just put this little, you could put a little gourd on there. I'm just going to put this one with a little bit of liquid glue, and I'm going to show you what I mean with that other piece that I cut out. Okay. And you could certainly cut more than one. You could add some other stuff to it. So what I'm going to do for this one, we're going to stamp this, and then we're going to pop that up. So you could do the same thing. It's kind of up to you, whatever it is that you want to do. I'm going to add my sentiment first for this so I don't overwhelm everything, because sometimes I can add other things and I should have kind of focused on my greeting. So I'm going to add my sentiment, and I'm going to keep it in the same color. So I'm going to go with terracotta tile. So this is very tonal and tone for this one. So I'm going to stamp that. Actually pretty straight. That's surprising. Looks pretty good for a change. This one, what I am going to add to this one though is I want to add a little bit of a green. So I have these little, kind of look like tiny little leaves. I don't know what they necessarily are, but we're going to stamp these. And for these, I think I'm going to do, I don't want to make it too dark, but I think I'm going to go with Old Olive, because that's kind of always like a nice, not necessarily too dark of a color. So I'm just going to very lightly tap these, and we'll kind of, oops, missed a couple. Change these around. And I should have my little Stampin' Off. Here it is. So I can get the edge of this one. So there's that. And we could add something to, let's add this little wheat. And I'm going to do that in a much lighter color. I'm going to go with crumb cake. So I just have my little wheat piece that's just on the other side there. We can just add, oops, I missed a spot. So we'll go with kind of 3 there, and then we'll just add maybe 1 up here. There you go. I don't want to do too much. I don't want to make it overwhelming. All right, so in a effort to, since I don't have the punch, show you another way to hold it up, here's what we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and add some adhesive here. Okay. We're going to put our centerpiece down, just like so. Okay, so we have that. Now we have, if you remember, we trimmed out this one little lone pumpkin. So this pumpkin, if you put it down, it's not going to really stop. It's going to end up kind of getting a little bit stumped. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our pumpkin and we're going to put a dimensional on the back. So you could use, here's a circular one. You could use a circular one. I'm going to put it up a little bit closer to the top, only because we kind of trimmed this out a little bit. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it hits here so it doesn't stub and end up bending this. Okay. So I just have one dimensional. The other alternative to this is you could either cut a bunch of these and layer together, or you could punch a bunch of other things and layer together as well. But I'm going to take the backing off, and I'm just going to leave this here for 1 minute. And I'm just kind of decide, like, if I have this open, where do I want it to stop? So you could have it so it stops so they could see the greeting when it's open. You could have it kind of so it's a little bit more of closed. But let's move this one up so it's kind of like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our pumpkin. So it's going to kind of be like it's sitting in this little field of leaves here. We're just going to press it down, and then it's going to hold that in place for us. Okay, so that is the same thing you could do for this one. You could do this with your punch. You could do it with a little you could do it with your, I should say, the acorn or the leaf punch. You could do it with a small word punch. You could even do it with a little circular punch. So if you have like a little 1/2 inch punch, you could do that. So basically you're just creating a little stopper, but it doesn't necessarily need it. So if it seems like too much work, you could absolutely leave it out, but it does make it kind of cool because then you can have it sit there and they could see your little message, which is really fun. Now these will fold flat. So even with this having the one dimensional underneath, it's still going to fold flat enough that it's going to fit in your card. And this one's going to look very subtle because you have just that one little gourd that we cut out there. Same with this one. It shows off a lot of the really pretty paper. And then the inside, again, we really only used 3 colors. So this was the soft suede. The soft suede is the stem here. This was the mint macaron, that one we stamped off before we filled it in. And then for this one, we just used the Cajun Craze, first generation, and then we stamped off before we filled in on the inside. So quite honestly, you only have 3 ink colors here and some paper going on. That's a lot. Looks like a lot of impact with not a lot of supplies. And then the same with this one. We used the same tone on tone for the sentiment. We did use crumb cake for the little wheat, but you could omit that if you needed to. And then I used the old olive for the little leaves there. So really, really simple with not a whole lot of supplies. So something that you can create probably with any paper that you might already have at home. And if for some reason you need to stock up on more paper, there is a great sale going on right now. So you can certainly get that at 15% off while I believe that goes through October 31st is when that sale ends. So I thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you found these fall cards really fun. They are very, very simple. The measurements will be listed on the blog. They're really not terrifically complicated at all. This one, if you, again, you wanted to change that, you could change this paper. You could make it so these were 2 different ones like this one is, but I think it's really pretty just the way it is. It's a really nice card. And the other thing is, if for some reason with these cards, you were like, I need a lot more room to write a note to someone, you can always cut yourself a panel on the back, 4 by 5 1/4, and you can put your note on the back as well. So you could do that for both of these. That way, excuse me, you have plenty of room to put your notes. But even if you did a card with these 2 coordinating colors and you just layered them, they really do coordinate well. So you could add another layer of color and then add a smaller piece of DSP, maybe if you're running low on it. But thank you guys very much for joining me today. I love to see all of your comments. I do get to read many more comments here on YouTube because there are far fewer. So if you leave me a comment, let me know. I would love to read it. If you have any suggestions on a card you would like to see made, some type of a fold or anything like that, please feel free to send me an email at rachthestamper@gmail.com. I love doing viewer requests because sometimes it makes it a little bit easier for me. I don't have to think of the ideas. I just kind of have to have fun with it, which is what I did today. I'm going to tell you, I decided on these 2 cards about 5 minutes before I started filming, and that's how I like making cards. On the fly, as we go, we pick out the things as we go. I know that might not be everybody's cup of tea, but that's kind of how my brain works. It's like I'm crafting with you at the same time. So thank you guys so much for joining me. If you did miss this card, I see that Marlene said she came in late. Once the video ends here on YouTube, it will replay again. So you just have to probably give it about 15 minutes and you'll be able to see everything. So that works out really well. I'm just going to check through one more time to make sure I didn't miss any comments. Oh, now that you mentioned that, Donna, hold on, I will show. So this is called the Tipsy. I also have lots of other, supplies from Lisa and John. And this holds your Tombow and other liquid glue. So you get pretty much every last drop. This is probably one of my absolute favorite tools. That is a non-Stampin' Up! Tool. Also, I love this one too. This is called the Boss. It holds your heat tool. That way you can really crank it up. It takes you way less time to heat up your embossing powder, which also means you get much less wrinkling on your paper. So if you are looking to find them, you can find them on Facebook and then Etsy. They are Crafters Solutions, and they have way more things beside this now. I'll also have lots of great accessory holders. They, as a matter of fact, just came out with, and I need to get that sponge dauber. Is it the sponge dauber or this? Yeah, the dauber. And it fits in a stamp case. So not this size stamp case, but the one that's a little bit wider. And so it has little holes and you can put your sponge daubers. Oh, I definitely want to order that because I think that is such a cool idea because my sponge daubers are like, dare I say, girls gone wild because they are just all together jumbled. Half the time I don't know what is what. So I definitely want to order one of those. That's something they just came out with recently. So this is where you can find them. Thank you, Donna, for mentioning that. And they are a great family to support, really near and dear to my heart. So if you would like to buy anything from them, just head over to their Etsy or their Facebook page. They have excellent customer service. If you have a question, they are really, really fast on helping you with get your answers done and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you check them out. All right, so I'm going to make sure. Crafter Solutions. So I want to thank you guys. But is anybody having buffering? Oh, somebody else said yes. I'm sorry. You know, it's funny because sometimes I have more issues with Facebook being weird, and YouTube is usually like no problem whatsoever. And the ironic thing is there is no one else in the house. So there is no internet being used except for me on this video. So just goes to show you, right? Did your birthday once? Oh, that's so cool. That's really, really cool. Oh, and by the way, in case you missed it, I did do a really neat card the other day, and I shared this on my Facebook page, so you'd have to go back and watch that, but this one used the felt. So you could even do that. You could cut your stopper out of your felt. That is a great idea. And then you could have like a little felt. You could even cut a little piece of felt because this comes in 4 different colors. You could do it like a little espresso circle, and then you could put a leaf or a pumpkin or something on it. That is a really good idea, Jean. That's a great idea to use the felt, because I haven't found that as much as I want to use the felt, I haven't used it quite as much as I thought I would. So that's a great idea for a stopper, because it would be definitely thick enough that you would be able to use it as a stopper. So good idea there. Thank you for sharing, which is again why I love doing lives, because we learn things from each other as we go along. Well, I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. I will see you again on Saturday morning, but over on my Facebook page. I'm thinking probably around 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time over there if you can join me. Thank you guys very much. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks for watching.